Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to the third part of our review for verbal reasoning. This review series is of course brought to you by Gurong Pinoy. I am your English coach, Coach Sha, at gaya ng dati, please join me from 7 to 9 o'clock tonight for another meaningful discussion on verbal reasoning test items. If you're planning to take the LET or the Civil Service Examination, then you are on the right channel po. Kaya naman invite and tag your friends here para mas marami po tayong magiging participants tonight and eventually mas marami tayong matutulungan in relation to preparing for the said examinations. The test questionnaire for tonight's session has already been shared to Gurong Pinoy's group members. So if you wish to avail of the said materials, for example, our test questionnaires, and of course, the full video of our review sessions, then please do visit and message us in our Gurong Pinoy Facebook page. Moreover, please do like and follow us in our Gurong Pinoy FB page so that you get notified of the recent news and updates regarding reviews for the civil service examination as well as licensure examination for teachers. All right, I can see people who are inputting in our comment section. So let's do some shout outs first. Some shout out. Good evening po to Sir Marcelo from Zamboanga City. Hello po sa mga taga Zamboanga. All right. So we also have a participant from Lingayen, Pangasinan. All right. Okay. So thank you. I can see that you are tagging your friends here. It's also good that we do tag friends or relatives who are also about to take the examination so that, like you, they could also prepare and eventually pass or even ace the said examinations. Good evening po sa mga nakaka-join lang. This is our third session already, as I've told you. For those who have been joining me from the very start of this review for August civil service examination, we have verbal reasoning reviews for the whole month of June to be held every Sunday. So this is the third Sunday of the month. I hope you also mark your calendar. Please join me again next Sunday. That's June 25. All right, yeah. Ma'am Mary Joy and to all those who are in Surigao del Sur. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Also, good evening to people from Davao del Norte. All right. Sige. So, it's already 7 o'clock. I'd like to invite you to dispose yourselves properly as we invoke the presence of our Almighty Father and offer the success of tonight's review and, of course, your successes in passing the LET or the Civil Service Examination. Lord, we know that you are always with us and you love us. Give us peace of mind as we prepare for this time of study. Help us to focus on the discussion and keep us from all distractions so that we will make the best use of this time that you have made available to us. Give us insight that we may understand what we are studying and help us to remember it when the time comes. Above all, we thank you for the ability to be able to study and for the many gifts and talents you have bestowed upon us. Help us always to use them in such a way that they honor you and do justice to ourselves and to others. Amen. All right. Wow. Also, greetings to those who are from Mindanao, from Puerto Princesa, from Davao de Oro. All right. And we also have an audience from Madrid. So this is not exclusively Filipinos in the country, but we can reach even internationally. Sige. Just invite and keep tagging your friends lang po so that they will be able to join us here tonight. And hopefully, all those who are joining me here tonight will find this session meaningful and productive as you help yourself prepare for the said examination. Tonight, I'd like to offer this quote to everyone and allow me to quote Sir Robert Collier when he said that success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. And those who have been consistently joining me since day one, May 14 yata, of the review for verbal reasoning, I know that it's your little effort to spend 2 hours for the night to review so that you can keep yourself prepared for the said examination and eventually get the success that you well deserve. For those who have just joined, I hope that you keep it a habit. Anyway, it's free. So you just have to log in and then be online and then join. Of course, I invite you to be participative and active. So we have our comments section here. As I pose some questions to you, kindly key in the comments section your response to a specific test question that is being posed. All right? So good luck, everyone. All right. I noticed we have a lot of participants coming from the Mindanao regions. All right. So tonight I have prepared the review session in 3 parts. Of course, this is a combination of Filipino and English test items. So I have prepared test items for identifying errors, sentence correction, and logical organization of ideas. So get ready with your typing fingers as I post the question. May I just ask you to input first the test item, followed by the option. In the civil service examination, the options are presented in numerical, in numbers. So you don't see ABCs in there. Instead, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? So for example, if you are presented with test item number 1 in the comments section, kindly key in 1.3 if the third choice, if the third option is your choice. Okay? Sige. Let's begin. So read each sentence very carefully and then choose the number of the underlined word or group of words which is erroneously written. Okay? So this test part allows you to analyze the sentence and of course dig in from your prior knowledge, whether you can still recall your grammar lessons. All right? Sige. Number 1, Miss Scotch was unique. She was the only teacher which offered students an opportunity to rewrite their English papers for a higher grade. Should you choose 5, then you would mean there's no error. Kindly key in your answer. Again, once you key in your answer, please do input 1 dot and the choice. So is it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? There are 4 groups of words that are highlighted. Was unique, which offered their English papers and a higher grade. It seems that unanimous yung answers that are given here in our comment section. Sige, so everyone, although there are answers for 1 and for 3, pero mas marami yung answer for 2. Tama nga ba yung nagsabing it's number 2? Sige. Let's rationalize the options. So if you answered 1, sa mga nagsabi pong one, yung erroneous part dito, you're wrong because this part is correct. If we take a look at our subject, we're talking about Miss Scotch. There's only one, so that's singular, and the most appropriate verb to pair it with is was, especially that this one is the tense being observed is the past tense. Notice the was in the first part, and then she was the only teacher. So, consistent din po yung verb na ginamit. When we say Miss Scotch was unique, it is elaborated by the fact that here in the second sentence or the second independent clause, it was mentioned that she was the only teacher. So being the only teacher makes her unique. All right? So Miss Scotch was unique is correct. When you answered 3, there were those who say 3. All right, their English papers. When we say their, it refers back to the noun students being its antecedent. So there's an agreement. The pronoun antecedent agreement is observed. All right, and since we're talking about many students, then we should also talk about many English papers as individual outputs of these students. All right. If you say 4, which I think nobody did, but let's just rationalize. If you say 4, a higher grade, then this is also correct because to aim for a higher grade goes back to an opportunity to rewrite. So, meaning they got high grades or low grades, maybe, but when they were given an opportunity to rewrite, then there's a possibility for a higher grade to be achieved or received. All right? And going back to 2, you are correct. This is the erroneous part because when we talk about teacher, we're referring to a person. So a relative pronoun, by the way, when we say relative pronouns, these includes who, which, that, whose, all right? So if we talk about things, objects, or animals, we use that or which. But when we refer to people, then we say who, all right? So the teacher who offered students an opportunity. Hey, great job for those who got it correct. Very good. Let's go to, yeah, just like Miss Melody, if you know a possible option to replace the underlined word or group of words, do suggest in our comment section. All right? Let's proceed to number 2. Each of the workers needs to surrender the company ID once they resign. Or 5, no error. What do you think about this sentence? Does it contain an error? Or is it already grammatically correct in terms of construction? All right. So different answers, 1, and then 4, and then still many say 2. All right. I'll vary this time. Sige. This one would ask you to recall, or this sentence would ask you to recall your lesson on subject-verb agreement and pronoun antecedent agreement. All right. Sige, let's see. Or is it already grammatically correct? Let's check. If you answered 1, that's also correct. So when we say each, it's also like using the word every. But if you would like to suggest every in this part, we have to make some alterations in the sentence. So we say each of the workers. Usually, each is either attached with or attached to the of phrase. Each of the fruits, each of the children, but each being singular is attached with in the of the phrase, which is followed by a plural noun. For example, each of the flowers, plural flowers. Each of the employees, employees, plural. But each, meaning I'm referring to individual members of the group or company. So singular po. But should you replace it with the word every, then you have to alter the sentence. You'd say every worker. All right? And now there, you remove the of the phrase, and the noun that you associate it with or you pair it with is already in the singular form. Every child, every flower, every house. All right? So every, pair it with a singular noun. In this case, number 1 is correct po. And so, if you mention number 2, that's also a correct part of the sentence. Notice the agreement in terms of the subject and the verb. Although we see the word workers here, workers is not our subject. It's only the object of the preposition of the workers, part of the of phrase. Remember, if you write a sentence and you have to write an of phrase, the noun that comes after the of the is always plural. Now, if we dissect this, the of the phrase is simply an intervening phrase. So if you remove it, the sentence is still correct. For example, you would say, each needs to surrender, right? So with or without the of the phrase, your sentence is still correct. But what matters most is that your subject and the verb agree. So each is singular, and so the verb that should pair it with is also in the S form, needs. Right? I hope I did clarify this part because many of you answered this. If you say to surrender is an infinitive. Any verb that is attached to the word to, for example, to write, to sing, to dance, is called an infinitive. And when we say infinitive, it has different functions. It can either be an adjective, it can either be an adverb, or it can also be a noun, like a subject or a direct object. In this case, it functions as a direct object. For example, I will ask the question, each of the workers needs what? So if it answers the question what, then it becomes a direct object. Direct object of the verb needs. Okay? So the way it is written is correct. And in terms of function, it effectively functions as a DO in the sentence. So not 3 also. If you say 4, let's see. If you say 4, this is erroneous. Remember what I've said earlier? It's this sentence either targets SV agreement, but it is already cleared when I explained 1 and 2. But notice they. The word each is, as I have said, is singular. And so if it needs to have another pronoun as its replacement, then we still maintain the number of the pronoun. So we can't have a singular and plural at the same time when we're referring to the same person or people. And so we say they, replace it with a he or she. Remember, workers here is not our subject. It's the word each. And each is singular. So we say he or she because the gender is unidentified. All right? So the best answer here is option 4. Correct. Yeah. Thank you po, Sir Adonis. Sige, let's go to number 3. Okay lang pagligwak sa item na to. Basta sa mga susunod na items, tama na po. Alright, let's go to number 3. The judge, along with other lawyers, was not convinced of what the prime witness did tell in the courtroom. Or is it correct? If correct, then write 5. The first underlined part is 1 was. So locate, first rule, locate the subject. All right. 3. So you answered 3. Okay, sige, let's check. Parang unanimous yung answer. Everyone agrees it's 3. Sige. When we say was, that's correct. Earlier, I mentioned about intervening phrase, or in my own definition, yung phrase na nakikialam lang. It may not necessarily be needed in the sentence. It's just added as an additional information. But if removed, the sentence is still correct as it is. So yung intervening phrase natin dito is along with other lawyers. Usually, the intervening phrase comes in the form of phrases that are introduced by as well as or with, together, parang ganon. So, if we eliminate them, our sentence is still correct. For example, the judge was not convinced. All right? So there's still some sense left, even without the intervening phrase. So, subject-verb agreement, our subject is judge, and so the verb that agrees with it is was. Correct. Nobody did input number 1 anyway. Number 2, option 2 is also correct. We have a verb phrase here. When we say verb phrase, there's the linking verb. We call that sometimes an auxiliary verb, followed by a verb or an action verb. So linking verb plus action verb. And if we have the verb phrase, the kind of the action verb is written in its past participle form. So kahit na sabihin nating present to, is not, still we maintain the word convinced, past participle. Is not convinced, was not convinced, has not been convinced, will not be convinced. Alright? So yung rule, pag nasa verb phrase, present, linking verb plus the past participle form. Okay? If you say 3, which many of you did agree that it's 3, it's correct po. When we say did tell, why is it correct? We use, in number 1, we say was not convinced, meaning the action was already done or finished. It's in the simple past tense. And when we say did tell, it's also in the simple past tense. So in terms of verb tense, there's a consistency. All right? Now, we can say of what the prime witness told. Okay? I think that's what we are more familiar of when we talk about simple past tense. We use the word told. But to use did tell is still in the simple past form, only that the use of the word did emphasizes that indeed the action was done. So when you encounter verbs such as do, does, or did, like does read, do read, did read. So these verbs are what we call emphatic forms of the verb from the word emphasis, meaning they emphasize that an action was done. All right. So for you to specifically make mention or make emphasis that the witness or the prime witness told, told something, especially an important matter in the courtroom, then we say did tell. Pero kung natural lang, you can say what the prime witness told can also be correct. Right? Kung for naman, pag sinabi mong for, that's also correct. The way the word courtroom is written, it's a compound word but written as one word. So, courtroom. One word lang po siya. In the end, there is no error in this sentence. Alright, Ma'am Judeline got it right. Alright, sige. Wow, Ma'am Joyce too. Very good. Sige, let's go to number 4. The proceeds from the sale of unused clothes sold goes to tahanan na walang hagdan. Can you find an error in this part, in this sentence? Especially looking at the underlined words? Or is this sentence again correctly written? So there's one who say 5. There's also one who say 1. What about the others? What do you think? Oh, mas marami na ngayong 5. Are you sure? The identifying error kind of test allows you but as a test taker challenges you to dissect the sentence. That's why this test type falls under analysis. So when you analyze, break down the sentence into parts. And when you start breaking down the sentence, usually you have to break it down by first identifying the subject and the verb. That's a prerequisite. Alright? So varied na. Many say 5, then 2, then 1, then 3. Well represented na po yung mga options natin. Sige, let's talk about the test item. If you say sale, this is correct. So usually we say proceeds of the sale. All right. And when we talk about the proceeds of the sale, we're talking about the net amount received. So this is correct. If you mention number 2, unused, all right, tama din. That's how we spell the word unused, meaning hindi pa nagagamit. It's an adjective. Hindi po siya hyphenated. It's just one word. All right? And then, unused clothes sold, meaning nabenta na. So, nabenta, tapos na, meaning sold, past tense. All right? So, sale of unused clothes sold. But what is the subject in this sentence? There's a lot of things mentioned here. There's proceeds, there's the word sale, there's the word clothes. So, eliminating, remembering what I told you earlier about intervening phrases, let's eliminate one phrase. From the sale. From is a preposition. Usually intervening phrase, this one is a prepositional phrase. So we say, the proceeds of unused clothes sold, tama din, tama pa rin. We can eliminate from the sale. Let's eliminate also of unused clothes sold. The proceeds goes to. Correct pa din, hindi ba? So, we can eliminate the two prepositional phrases from the sale and of unused clothes sold. We are left with one noun, and that's the proceeds. And if we talk about the proceeds, it's plural in form, and so the verb should be go. Okay? That's why I told you, pag himay-himayin niyo po. Alright? So, it's easier for us to to get drawn by an answer without analyzing it. But if you do the analysis rigorously, then you will eventually find the correct answer. In this case, ito yung paghihimay-himay, removing the unnecessary parts until you get to uncover which is the subject of the sentence and what verb goes with it. Yeah, masakit yung the. But usually, our sentences are introduced by articles like a, an, or the. So here, proceeds is introduced by the article the. Alright. Yeah. Tama po, Sir John Paul. Sinabi na nga go. Alright? Sige, let's go. Let's go to number 5. Arlene arrived at the auditorium earlier so she could occupy the front seat and reserve seats for her friends. It's okay, Ma'am Marivic. The first time I'm learning grammar, I also said that, but it did not stop me. So hopefully you can still review, get to rewind this video anyway. Sige, is it 3 or is it 1? Arrived at or so? Or 4? Sige. Let's talk about the test item now. Well represented na. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Wala bang nagsabing 5? Oh, meron na. Sige. Let's check it out. If you say arrive at, so the phrase to arrive at, it's also an idiom meaning to arrive at a certain place. And we're talking about a specific place here, the auditorium. So the phrase arrived at is correct. Now, in terms of looking at the word arrived, it's in the past tense. In terms of verb tense consistency, it's consistent with the word could. Arrived is past and could occupy is also in the past form. So 1 is correct. Then earlier is also correct. There's a purpose. So she could arrive early, but this time she chose to arrive earlier for a certain purpose. The purpose is to occupy the front seat and at the same time reserve seats. So the word earlier this time is used correctly. If you say could occupy, this now indicates the purpose of why Arlene arrived at the auditorium much earlier. So verb tense consistency, arrived, past tense, could is also in the past. All right? Pero if you said 5, meaning no error, mali po. Kasi yung number 3 is erroneous. Here, we say could occupy the front seat and reserve seats for her friends are the purposes of Arlene for arriving at the auditorium earlier. So there's a faulty use of the word so. It could have been so that. Now, let's clarify when to use so and when to use so that. When we say so that, This one is used to make explanation about the clause or to express the reason or purpose of the clause. Notice the two identified purpose earlier: to occupy the front seat and to reserve seats for her friends. So she indicates a purpose rather than a result or an effect. Because if she indicates a result or an effect, then the use of the word so could have been correct. For example, I have some money, so I want to buy a new car. So I want to buy a new car. Here, putting it side by side with so that he wants to earn lots of money so that he can buy many things. So the purpose is to buy many things. Here, I have some money so I can buy. All right? So I can buy a new car. Notice the difference? Yeah. So here, Arlene arrived at the auditorium earlier so that she could occupy the front seat. All right? So the best answer here is 3. If you wish to enroll in a basic English grammar, then do so if you feel that it could help you. But of course, joining me here and maybe enrolling in Gurong Pinoy's CSE or LET reviews could also help you. Sige, let's go to number 6. 30 minutes na yung lumipas pero nasa number 6 pa lang din tayo. Sige, let's talk about this item. The performance of each contestant was properly evaluated by the uninterested judges. No error. By looking at the test item, I have spotted another erroneous part. So I think dalawa dito. Yeah. The first one I did not included it here in the presentation, but let me talk about it. So it's 1 or 4. Sige, let's talk about it. Sorry, kasi yung sinabi ko dito, number 1 is correct, but it's actually erroneous. So you're right. This is erroneous. This contains an error. Refers to individual member, but this one is wrong. Remember what I said earlier about of a phrase of each contestant. All right? This one is erroneous. It should have been the performance of each contestant. Okay? So, this correct. Tama po, Ma'am Neil. So, we have 2 erroneous test parts here. Again, the option 1 is erroneous. It should have been of each contestant. All right, I hope I did make this clear. Sorry, I put a check mark there. If you say 2, that's correct because the subject here is performance, and so the verb that agrees with it is was instead of were. So correct. And when we say evaluated, earlier I talked about a verb phrase. So was plus the past participle form of evaluate is was evaluated. Now, the first thing that I have identified here as the erroneous part is number 4. Because if we say properly evaluated, then surely it will not happen if the judge is uninterested. Surely the evaluation will be done haphazardly. But it was mentioned here that the performance was properly evaluated by uninterested judges. All right? So if we have to correct this, it should have been by interested judges. But other than this part, which is erroneous, again, number 1 or option 1 is also erroneous. It should have been the performance of each contestant with an S at the end. Right? I hope I did clarify this part. Alright, sige. Or disinterested. Correct po. Uninterested or disinterested. Alright? Uninterested. Let's go to number 7. The policeman deployed to resolve the hostage taking lacked experience, disciplined, as well as an overall strategy. Is this sentence correct or does it contain an error? Wow, congratulations po, Sir Adonis, for passing the CSE ba? CSC or CSE? So 2 or 3. All right. Sige, let's talk about this test item. Varied, this time varied pa rin yung mga answers. If you say 1 or 3, this part is correct. Kasi when we say deployed, past tense, and then it is consistent with the word lacked, also past tense. So deployed and lacked are consistent, maintains a verb tense consistency. Right? If you say 2, this is also correct. Remember earlier, I talked about infinitive. So an infinitive may function as a noun, either a subject or a DO, or it can also function as an adjective or an adverb, but it can also function to indicate purpose, the purpose of an action. So the policeman deployed for what? Deployed to resolve the hostage taking. Okay? And correct for those who say 4 because in terms of parallelism, they are not parallel. Notice, what does the policeman lack? 1, they lacked experience. 2, they lacked discipline. And 3, they lack strategy. Experience and strategy are nouns. Disciplined is adjective. So, to make it consistent, convert it into a noun form. So, discipline is the noun form of disciplined. Alright? So, congratulations to those who got 4. Tumpak. Number 8. My cousin prefers reading Twilight than watching it in the cinema. Is this sentence correct? Or does it contain any error? Notice the underlined word prefers. Does it match our subject? And what does she prefer? Is it reading? Is the use of the word than correct? What about the word it? Does it observe the correct pronoun antecedent agreement? Okay, let's talk about this test item now. When we say prefers, that's correct. The subject is cousin, singular, and so verb should be in the S form, prefers. If you say reading, this time it's a gerund. Remember that the two or the infinitive, the to plus base form of the verb, that's one form of a verbal, meaning a verb a word that looks like a verb, but actually does not function as a verb. This one is the second verbal. Reading here, the one that ends with an ing, which functions as a noun, like a direct object, is a gerund. So here, it answers the question, what? So it's a direct object. And so reading here as a gerund is used correctly. If you say, and also in terms of parallelism, it maintains, it is consistent. Reading and watching, both are parallel to each other. If you answer for, meaning it, the word it, watching it in the cinema refers to Twilight. And Twilight is one movie, a title of a movie. So it is agrees with its antecedent Twilight. Now, if you take a look at number 3, the partnership between prefers and than. Do you think, is it correct? Let's take a look at what should be the correct partner. Somebody earlier said rather or instead. My cousin prefers reading. Yeah. So if we use the word rather, then we pair it with than. Rather than. My cousin prefers reading rather than watching it. All right? But here, the verb prefers, as identified earlier, is already correct. So now our question is the word than matched with the word prefers, or we have to replace it with another word? Let's see the discussion. When we talk about the word prefer, here you see how it evolves in terms of form, from prefer, preferred, and then preferring. But notice the examples. I prefer milk chocolate to dark chocolate. He was preferred to be captain. Most Chinese preferred tea to coffee. And so, going back to our statement, number 3 is erroneous here. It should have been, my cousin prefers reading Twilight to watching it in the cinema. All right? So we're already, I'm saddened to know that some of us have difficulty watching the live discussion today, but I understand this can be viewed several times in YouTube. So if you're having difficulty now, just go back later on, all right? The playwrights, number 9, the playwrights have just submitted the most final draft of their latest play to be staged at the PICC. Do you think this sentence is correctly written, or do we need to improve some parts? All right? Sige. Different opinion tayo so far in terms of the answer. Let's take a look at number 1. If you say 1, this is a correct test part. All right? This part of the sentence is correct. Allow me to explain. When we say have, it agrees with the subject playwrights. Playwrights meaning many. And so the verb you have to use is have, not has. All right? And it is mentioned that they have just submitted the draft. They have just submitted the draft. And if we recall the lesson on present perfect tense of the verb, present perfect tense. So have submitted. There's usually an intervening adverb there, either just or already. For example, have just submitted or have already submitted. So correct din yung paggamit dito ng word na just. And then submitted, remember earlier what I've told you? If you have the verb, the auxiliary verb like have, pair it with the past participle form. So have submitted. So this test part is correct. If you say their latest play, the word they refers to playwrights. So pronoun antecedent agreement is correct, is observed. And then to be staged, yung nagsabi kanina na to be staged dapat remove the D, that's wrong. We say to stage. But if you add the B as a word in between the to and the verb, you say to be staged. So to write, to be written, to sing, to be sung. All right? Notice the difference. So kung to plus base form of the verb, pero to be plus past participle form of the verb. All right? So yung tamang sagot dito, tama po kayo, is to. Pag sinabi natin yung final draft, wala na pong most final doon. It's already the ultimate, the ultimate draft. All right? So most is ultimate superlative form. Final is already the ultimate form as well. So final draft. That's why the joke with me and my students is, ano ba? Final or draft final? Ano ba? And so, if naming the documents, you say V1, meaning version 1, version 2, and then final version. All right? Walang most final, more final, final, more final, most final. Not true. The word final is already the ultimate form. All right? Congratulations if you got it right. Let's go to the last. No, this is not the last item pa. Number 10. Mr. Baxter is a strict and firm boss. He dislikes repeating given instructions again. Is this sentence correct? Or no error? Hilarious din pag sinabi nating finally yes. Right? What do you think about this sentence? Here, you are asked to check the usage of a semicolon. Does it observe in number 1? Is the semicolon correctly used there? Sige. So 4 and 5. Let's see. If you say number 1, which nobody did, this is correct. We use a semicolon to separate two independent clauses. When I say independent clause, meaning it's a simple sentence. It can stand on its own without the other part. For example, Mr. Baxter is a strict and firm boss. That's already an independent clause, a simple sentence by itself. Removing the other part, the sentence is complete. The second part, he dislikes repeating given instructions again. This is also another independent clause or a simple sentence. Without the first part, it still can stand on its own. Okay? Dislikes. Okay. So the semicolon, sige, I have already explained that. He dislikes. Subject and verb agreement is well observed. He, singular, S form for dislikes. Correct. He dislikes what? So, repeating. Remember the ing? This one is a gerund functioning as a do. He dislikes what? He dislikes repeating given instructions. And when we say again, this is erroneous, redundant with the word repeat. To say to repeat means to do something again. So, to say repeat again is redundant. All right? So just eliminate the word and end the sentence with instructions. He dislikes repeating given instructions, period. Okay, that's how we correct this sentence. Sige, out of 10, how much did you get? Can you input in the comment section, please? Let's see who passed before we proceed to number 11. How much is your score? Would you like to share? May nakakuha ba dito ng perfect 10? 3 over 10. Oh, sad. You have to review. You have to review. Read more grammar test items. 8 is a good number. Sige. He dislikes to repeat given instructions again. Yeah. If the sentence says, he dislikes to repeat given instructions, then tama. All right? That's why the suggestion earlier is remove the word again. Pero he dislikes to repeat given instructions. That's correct. Okay? Oh, quite low yung scores natin. Sige, bawi tayo sa Filipino. If you get 6 over 10, I tell my students you pass. Pero 5 over 10, medyo 74. Sige, let's proceed to Filipino. Inutusan siya ng kanyang amo na sumakay ang kahon-kahong mansana sa truck. What do you think? Do you think this sentence contains an error? Or tama ba? Sige, common yung answer natin. 3. Sige. Sinabi nating inutusan, meaning yung action is tapos na, yung kilos ay naganap na. So, tama. Siya ng kaniyang amo. So, there's also consistency in terms of the pronoun. Siya, yung antecedent, and then the pronoun is kaniyang, referring back to siya. So, tama. And then, kahon-kahong. This is how we repeat the word and how it is correctly written. So, it's not you, but maintain kahon with an O still and hyphenate it. Alright? Pero tama kayo, yung part dito na erroneous is number 3. Sumakay ng ano. So, dito yung focus ng pandiwa natin na sumakay is ang kahon-kahong mansanas. Kapag yung, ano ba? I'm stuttering now. This time Filipino, challenging for me. So, if we observe this, kapag ito yung binibigyan natin ng focus, yung focus dito is ang lion, ang ano, then yung mga panlapi na ginagamit natin dito is dapat in or ipa, ma, na, or an. So, if we talk about sakay, that's our root word, and the needed na panlapi or prefix is i. So, isakay. Inutusan siya ng kanyang amo na isakay ang kahon-kahong mansana sa truck. Should we use the word sumakay, dapat we have to alter the ang. Inutusan siya ng kanyang amo na sumakay ng. Pero, still, dito, kapag basihan natin yung sentence na to, then it's supposed to be isakay ang kahon-kahong mansanas, being the focus of the pandiwa or focus. Alright? Number 12. Sinagot rin niya sa wakas ang masugid na manliligaw. Tama ba yung sentence na ito? Yeah. Yes po, Ma'am Aliyah. There are test items. It's possible that you encounter test items in Filipino, and it's also possible that you encounter test items in math written in Filipino. All right? No. In the Filipino test items could also be found in not only in grammar, but in reading comprehension or in logical organization of ideas. There's also the Filipino counterpart there. And as I've said, you might meet some test items in other subjects like math or social studies in Filipino, using the Filipino as a medium. All right? Sige, let's talk about this. So, sinagot, meaning tapos na. All right? So, ang kilos ay naganap na. Kapag sinabi nyo namang rin, let's take a look at the use of rin. So, there's a difference between din and rin when to use it. When we're dealing with consonants or yung mga katinig like ba, ha, all right, except for y and w, which in Filipino are sounded out like vowels, wa, yi, and w, aw, all right? So, we use din. Pero, kapag yung salita ay nagtatapos sa patinig or vowels, or y and w, then we use rin. So, going back to our test item, sinagot. So, the last letter of the word sinagot is T. It's a vowel, katinig. So, dapat ay din. Sinagot din niya sa wakas ang masugid na manliligaw. Alright? Sige. So, let's move forward to number 13. Ang bilin sa iyo ng iyong ina ay pahirin mo ng mantikilya ang mga tinapay. Oh, sorry. This is 5. Walang mali. What do you think about this test part? All right? Oh, sige. You already have a suggestion. Sige. So, number 1, ang bilin sa iyo. So, kanino? So, sa iyo. Tama? And then, iyong ina, as well as mo, all relates or agrees with number 1, iyo. So, pronoun antecedent agreement, clarified here. But number 3, tama po kayo. Let's see, ano yung difference between pahirin and pahiran? Some of you are offering suggestions already. Tama. Kapag sinabi mong pahirin, alisin. Pero kung pahiran, then lagyan. Alright? So that's basic. Pahirin mo ang pawis, meaning alisin mo ang pawis sa noo. Pahiran mo ng pampakintab ang mesa, meaning lagyan mo ng pampakintab. Alright? So in this case, tama, yung erroneous part dito is pahirin. Meaning, lagyan mo ng mantikilya. Correct. Number 14. Aking papatalupan ang pinya upang makain mo. How do we do this? Or what can you say? Can we say about the sentence? Is it correctly written? Yeah. You can review this video in YouTube. I just don't think if it would be the full part. All right. So 1. All right. So if you say 1, correct. Sir John Joel has already given a suggestion. Dapat patatalupan. Alright, sige. So, kapag sinabi nating upang, we're talking about reason. So, bakit niya patatalupan ang pinya? Upang makain mo. Alright, sige. So, ito ay isang pangatnig na pantulong, meaning, ginagamit ito upang ipag-ugnay yung makapag-isa at di makapag-isang parirala. In English, that's independent and and dependent clause. So, upang in sentence in English is so that. Alright? So, tama. So, upang. Upang makain mo. For what purpose? Napatatalupan ko yung pinya. Then, makain. Makain meaning gagawin pa lang. Which also maintain or is consistent with papatalupan, meaning gagawin pa lamang. So, 3 is also correct. When we say mo, ito ay isang panghalip na panao na nasa pangalawang panauhan. Kung pangalawang panauhan yung isang panghalip, meaning yung tinutukoy nito is yung taong kinakausap. So, akin mo, directly talking to the person, referring the person as mo. So, tama yung number 4. And so, yung erroneous part dito is 1. Tama yung suggestion nyo kasi ang rule ng pag-uulit, ang rule sa pag-uulit is dapat you identify kung ano yung salitang ugat o root word. So, sa papatalupan, yung salitang ugat